Welcome to the Plan B CRNA Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA Podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. The mindset that we bring to any situation plays a key part in overcoming challenges and really enjoying our unique paths in life. On Thoughtful Thursdays, I like to explore emotional topics that are relevant to CRNAs and other providers. I think of this as my therapy, and I hope you learn some tips and tricks that you can use along your own journey. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan B CRNA Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and as always, I like to start these episodes off with a quote that gets me thinking. Orson Scott Card once wrote, "Because never in my childhood did I feel like a child. I felt like a person all along, the same person that I am today. I never felt that I spoke childishly. I never felt that my emotions and desires were somehow less real than adult emotions and desires." For those of you who are unfamiliar, Orson Scott Card is a well-known writer and author of Ender's Game, a military science fiction novel set at an unspecified date in Earth's future. The novel presents an imperiled humankind after two conflicts with an insectoid alien species dubbed buggers. In preparation for a third attack, Earth's international military force recruits young, gifted children to be trained as elite command officers, including the protagonist of the novel, Andrew Ender Wiggin. I watched the movie about a month ago or so, and it was entertaining enough, but it felt like it was missing something. And of course, books are often more rich than movies, and I found that to be true again as I flew through the book in about a week's time. The adults in the book constantly placed Ender and his fellow trainees in challenging situations in the battle room to test their limits to the max. It was truly a trial by fire, and some kids succeeded in the war games while others didn't. And all of them seemed to be left with some sort of trauma by the end of it. But it was Orson Scott Card's introduction to that novel that really set the tone for me to be able to read it. He spoke of the positive and negative reactions he'd received, and many of them focused on his treatment of the dialogue between the young children. The main complaints were that children simply didn't think and talk the way that he presented them in the book. And that's where our quote comes in. Now, I know that when I was a kid, I was aware that I was a kid, but more importantly, I was a person. My emotions and passions were just as real then as they are now, even though I still had so much yet to learn about the world around me. I remember making breakfast for my parents on Mother's Day and the embarrassment from completely screwing up the eggs. I was 7 at the time. I can remember feeling gutted when my girlfriend cheated on me. I was in 4th grade then. And just like Darius Rucker of Hootie and the Blowfish, I can remember crying when Pete Stoyanovich missed a 47-yard field goal that would have sent the Miami Dolphins to the Super Bowl. I was 13 at that time. I remember the joy of building a Pinewood Derby car with my dad and then taking first place. I remember working on school stuff and projects and baseball, and I was really proud of my accomplishments. Reading Card's introduction to Ender's Game took me right back to those places in my childhood, and I realized how they are just as much a part of me as my memories in adulthood. Of course, that got me to thinking about my own children and how they interact with the world around them. But I would be mistaken if I simply ignored the impact that they have on me. Children can teach us so many things, whether that's just learning more about them and their life, or learning about the world around us too. Kids are constantly learning and soaking up information around them, and they often look forward to sharing that with their parents and other adults. I mean, for instance, did you know that at least 2 billion people worldwide consume over 1,900 species of edible insects? That's because my oldest had a project in which she had to cook something to bring to class with some type of a bug in it. That's the only way I learned about this. Now, she chose cricket powder, which is something I didn't even know existed. And she made a soy sauce, cricket powder coated tofu bite stuff. It was these little itty bitty tofu bites that she cooked in the oven. And I could go on and on about the health and environmental benefits of adding crickets to your daily diet, but I'll just put those details in the show notes for those who are actually interested. We all have a lot that we can learn from our kids if we treat them respectfully as fellow humans. Children are not just meant to be seen and not heard. And with Father's Day coming up, it also makes me wonder about how I can better help my children along their individual paths. That requires listening to and respecting their stories and how they see the world. So how can we listen to children more effectively? Well, number one, we can engage in active listening. That means putting down the phone and making eye contact, taking the conversation slowly, repeating back what the child has said to make sure that you understand them. Don't downplay their concerns, but instead acknowledge their emotions and offer assistance if necessary. Be patient and present above all, and do your best to avoid judgment. You'd be surprised at the complexity of the thoughts that your children can produce if you give them the chance to do so. Number two, pay attention to nonverbal communication. Kids don't have to be talking for you to be listening. And I don't know about you, but I can tell pretty quickly when one of my own kids shuts down. And you can tell when they are extra emotional or moody, and they may need your help to sort through some of those things that are going on in their life. Number three, don't force your child to talk. Verbal communication, as I just said, isn't the only means of expression, but perhaps they need to draw or write or get physical by running or dancing or jumping up and down. There are many different coping skills that you can utilize to help them learn and that you can also cultivate within yourself. And finally, number four, offer help. It's respectful to ask for permission from them before sharing your thoughts. Something like, would it be helpful if I shared some of my ideas to help you with this? That allows your kiddos to decide for themselves whether or not they'd like to work with you to problem solve. And this can be a really useful way to encourage independence while also supporting them. Now, I hope that these tips help you to forge better relationships with any children you may come across in your lifetime. For all you dads out there, I'd like to wish you a happy Father's Day. And I'm not sure that I actually said the same for moms a month ago. I don't recall. So a very belated and much deserved happy Mother's Day to y'all too. Adulting is hard. Parenting is harder. And you guys are crushing it out there. Now, a great book that I found to help parents out is called Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. The author, Hunter Clarke-Fields, provides practical strategies and powerful mindfulness skills to calm your own stress response, cultivate respectful communication, and effectively resolve conflict. You can also check out The Whole Brain Child by Daniel J. Siegel, MD, and Tina Payne Bryson, Ph.D. The authors offer a revolutionary approach to child rearing with 12 key strategies that foster healthy brain development and lead to calmer, happier children. With that said, that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you check out the show notes for helpful links. And if you enjoyed what you heard, let me know. Make sure you hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. And I'd love to hear what you thought of the show, so you can make sure you just leave that right in your review. If you're interested in passive income opportunities with tax-advantaged real estate, you can visit my website at www.oncallinvestments.com or reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Until next time, stay safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.